Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Hawley, as well, and welcome to the committee. Welcome to all the new members of the committee, and congratulations, Mr. Chairman. We are looking forward to the Lindsey Graham chairmanship of Judiciary, and I'm sure if...
They'll make a movie about it, I'm sure.
I am certain whatever else happens, it will not be boring. Welcome, Mr. Barr. Congratulations on your nomination yet again. And let me say thank you. You and I have visited before about this, but the past 2 years have been a difficult time at the Department of Justice. And you and I and many on this committee hold the Justice Department in very high esteem. Indeed, I would even say revere the department and its century-long tradition of enforcing the law without regard to party and without regard to partisanship. And I commend you for your willingness to go back and serve once again. I think that is a good step for the department and a good step for strengthening the department. You know, I would note 27 years ago, when you did this previously, when you were last nominated to be Attorney General, when I think you may have been about Liam's age at the time, it was a different time. Then Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Joe Biden, said at the time that he found you to be, quote, honest, and that you, quote, understand and are committed to the dual responsibility of the office of the Attorney General. Chairman Biden also said that, quote, this commitment to the public interest above all else is a critical attribute in an Attorney General, and I will vote to confirm Mr. Barr. Senator Ted Kennedy likewise noted your dedication to public service. Senator Fritz Hollings said, quote, Mr. Barr has a distinguished academic background and impressive experience in private sector as well as in public service. Most important, Bill Barr is a known quantity. He has done a truly outstanding job as Deputy Attorney General for the last year and a half, during which time he has worked with many of us in this body, earning our respect for his professionalism and competence. And Senator Cole said that, quote, your willingness to discuss the issues is a refreshing change in the confirmation process, and it would be wise of future nominees to follow Mr. Barr's example. At that hearing, you were confirmed by this committee unanimously, as you had been twice previously for senior appointments to the Department of Justice. Now, we all recognize that was a different time. I think given the environment we are in now, few expect this committee vote to be unanimous. But I would hope those voices from the past, from Democrats who were respected by members of this committee, will be heard today as well. One of the questions you were asked, if I might paraphrase, was, why on earth would you take this job? And your answer, if I recall correctly, concerned your commitment both to the department and the rule of law. Would you tell this committee, in your judgment, why the rule of law matters? Why is that important?
Well, you know, as our framers said in the Federalist Papers, the art of setting up a government is to have a government that's strong enough to perform the functions that a government has to perform, while at the same time not being so strong that it can oppress its own people. And the rule of law ensures that precisely that the government does not oppress its own people. And when people are accused of wrongdoing, our system essentially gives them the benefit of the doubt and gives them rights to bring them up essentially to the same level as the government. And the process we go through is there to ensure that justice is not arbitrary, but it's done according to a set of rules. And the basic protection that we have is that the rule that applies to one applies to all. That, at the end of the day, is what keeps us all free. That is the protection of individual freedom. And to me, the rule of law is exactly that. that we don't allow special rules to go into effect for a particular individual. A rule has to be universalized. Anything we do against A has to be universalized across everyone who's similarly situated. That's our basic protection, and to me, that's what the rule of law is.
So I don't want to see a Republican Department of Justice or a Democratic Department of Justice. I don't want to see a Republican FBI or a Democratic FBI. What we should see, what the American people have a right to see and a right to expect, is a Department of Justice that is committed to and faithful to the Constitution and the laws, regardless of political party. And a corollary to that is a department that is willing to hold anyone who commits criminal conduct accountable, regardless of that individual's political party or whatever partisan interest there might be. Would you agree with that characterization?
Senator. Yes, Senator.
I would note as well, during the previous administration, there was concern by many, including me on this committee, that the previous administration, and in particular the IRS, had targeted individual citizens and citizen groups for exercising their First Amendment rights and had abused its power in doing so. The current Justice Department, I've been dissatisfied with the degree of scrutiny they have given to that potential abuse of power. And I'm going to ask you going forward, if you are confirmed, to examine that conduct and ensure that if laws were broken, that individuals are held accountable. Let me shift to a different topic. One of the most important safeguards of our liberties is the Bill of Rights. And the Attorney General has a unique responsibility defending the Constitution. Can you share for this committee, in your view, the importance of free speech, of the protections that the First Amendment provides to Americans to speak, and even to speak on unpopular or politically disfavored topics?
I think free speech is at the core of our system because we believe in the democratic process and power shifting through the processes of voting by an informed electorate. And free speech is foundational to the ability to have a democratic process. The framers, I think, believe that the dialectic, the clashing of ideas in the public marketplace, is the way to arrive at the truth. And that is one function. Another function of free speech is that it's the substitute for other means of settling differences. In some ways, it's a safety valve. People are allowed to speak their mind and persuade their neighbors of their position. And I think that performs a very important function in keeping the peace within a community. And if speech is suppressed, it can lead to the building up of pressures within society that sometimes can be explosive.
How about your views on religious liberty? And would you share your thoughts on the importance of the religious liberty protections in the First Amendment in terms of protecting our diverse and pluralistic society?
Yes, I think the framers believe that our system, they said that our system only works if the people are in a position to control themselves. Our government is an experiment in how much freedom we can allow the people without tearing ourselves apart. And they believed fewer laws, more self-control, and they believed that part of that self-control, and I know there are many people here who disagree, in our society, not here, but in our society who disagree, but they believe part of that self-control ultimately came from religious values. And I think it's important underpinning of our system that we permit. I believe in the separation of church and state, but I am sometimes concerned that we not use governmental power to suppress the freedoms of traditional religious communities in our country.
Final question. The Department of Justice is charged with defending the United States, but that doesn't mean that the Department of Justice always must argue for maximum federal power. There are important restraints on federal power, whether civil liberties protections in a criminal context, whether the Takings Clause, or whether the 10th Amendment and federalism. Can you briefly share your thoughts on the appropriate balance of respecting the limitations on federal power?
Well, as you say, the Constitution has many different forms of restraint on federal power. Part of it is, in fact, the separation of powers within the federal government. Part of it is the balance between the federalist system we have and the central government, and respecting the rights of the states and local communities. And part of it is the Bill of Rights that, on certain topics, constrains the role of the federal government. And those are all important checks on federal power. And, you know, I am concerned about our country becoming just a unitary state that we try to govern centrally, 350 million people. I think a lot of our current tensions in society are because we are turning our back on the federalist model. There are certain things that have to be protected by the federal government. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the more we can decentralize decision-making, the more we can allow people a real diversity in the country of approaches to things, I think we'll have less of an explosive situation.
I very much agree. Thank you, Mr. Barr.